Hey there, welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel and podcast network. I'm your host for today, and today we're going to be talking a lot of rankings. We're recording this at 1:15 p.m. on the Eastern time, so the AP poll just came out. So we're typically on Mondays, we're going to do rankings podcast. This seems to be popular with a lot of people. I think that's what makes college basketball great, is that we are able to put a number next to the side of a team, and as soon as you beat them, it feels like so much more of a win. That's why the college sports are just fantastic. So in today's show, here's going to be the slate or the layout. We're going to go quick results from the weekend. We had 3 real big games, some other notable games. I'm trying to get through those quicker because I know people aren't 100% here for that. And then we're going to get into the AP poll, updated KenPom rankings, top 35 at KenPom, obviously top 25 in the AP poll. And then, of course, the best of all my own rankings, some, combination of, resume / power rankings / AP poll slate rankings until we dive deeper into the season, where it will lean more towards resume based once we get into bracketology and all that stuff. So if you're here just for the rankings, I'm going to talk about games first. So just fast forward to where you see the AP poll. And then I'm going to do a new segment in the rankings where it's going to be labeled teams that stink, teams that are plummeting right now, that are just not as good as we might have thought them to be. I know it's early, but we're going to talk about some of those teams that are heading in the wrong direction before previewing this upcoming week. We have 2 MTEs starting, and, we have some big games, not like a huge slate of games, like I believe Wednesday has 4 games, but there's 2 that are just awesome matchups. So we're going to talk about those with the opening betting lines and the KenPom betting lines as well. But before we do, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more college basketball content, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Leave a comment, leave a review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Follow us on there. Follow us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts and such. All right, let's dive right into it. Let's go all the way back to Friday and just talk about some of these results just briefly, because number 5 Arizona stayed hot, beat number 15 UCLA 69-65. Beware, UCLA fans. You're going to be on the teams that are plummeting segment. I'm not going to say that you stink because you're still a good team, but they are plummeting. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Anthony Del Orso was the story for Arizona. 20 points, 4 of 7 from 3. Really good stuff. Different body basically for Anthony Del Orso this year. He looks completely different. He's now got a beard as well, but he's also much bigger, more athletic, and provided a big spark coming off the bench now for Tommy Lloyd's squad. For UCLA, Bilodeau and Tyler Bilodeau and Donovan Dent were okay, but UCLA just hasn't quite popped yet. We'll see what they can do. Michigan held off TCU. Michigan has really been playing with fire a little bit here against TCU and with Wake Forest. They do end up getting the win, but the turnover issue is a very big issue that's going around, the Twitter sphere, as you might call it. Michigan is just, as they did last year, their big concern was turning the ball over. This year, it's the same thing. Elliot Cadeau's averaging 4 turnovers a game. Doesn't look too great for, it's not that great of a start for Michigan, but they still, obviously it's a lot of new pieces trying to fit together. I think they'll be just fine. They're dropping in my rankings. They're dropping in KenPom rankings. They're also dropping in the AP poll. So we'll talk about them here a little bit more in a little bit. Samford loses to Arkansas barely. Arkansas in kind of a revenge game here after losing to Michigan State at Michigan State. And you have to hold off Samford 79-75. Not great stuff for Arkansas. Nevertheless, they get a win. Providence loses to Colorado. God, Kim English. I don't know what to think about this Providence team, because they have a lot of talent, but they have Kim English as a coach. And we're starting to find out as we go, further into the NIL world, into, just more analytics-based world. There's a lot of good basketball coaches. And now whenever a not so good basketball coach is, out there coaching at a high major team, it's going to show, because everyone else you're coaching against is good, and the talent is more even than it's ever been at the power conference level now. I know you might say the opposite because of NIL, but everyone is good now. Every basketball player is good now. And it's not looking good for Kim English and Providence. They're 2-2 to start the year. A team that was picked 4th in the Big East. You lose to Colorado, who was picked 16th in the Big 12 preseason poll, and they lost to Virginia Tech, who was picked 12th in the ACC. Providence fans are going to start getting very, very unhappy very quick if they aren't already there already. Gonzaga had no problems with Arizona State. Speaking of bad coaches, Bobby Hurley, not great. Gonzaga controlled the entire way. Arizona State is just not even a team you worry about when you go and play them on the road anymore. Washington did beat Washington State in a rivalry game there, and then just the other ones we'll kind of talk about. UCF destroyed Texas A&M. Texas A&M, I've said it for a while. I didn't think they were going to be good this year. Just the pieces just don't fit together for me. And yeah, it's not going to be good for Texas A&M this season. Maybe they'll figure it out, but UCF is not a very good team, and they went and beat Texas A&M. Same goes for Xavier. It's going to be a year process. Trust Richard Pitino. He'll get you there, but yeah, rough start to the season. They get drilled by Iowa and Ben McCullum, who's off to a good start. And then Georgia holds off Georgia Tech barely. Makes me nervous about Georgia. They've been climbing the rankings at KenPom because of their offensive efficiency. They scored 92, but giving up 87 to a Georgia Tech team who I think is probably the worst Power 5 team in the country. DePaul might have something to say about that. But yeah, Georgia holding off Georgia Tech in that one. Speaking of DePaul, they lose to Northwestern. Pretty solid game here. Northwestern wins 81-79. Then the other one we'll just mention, High Point did lose to UAB. We talked on the last podcast. If High Point were to beat UAB, they had a legit chance to go undefeated. Well, they kind of got drilled by UAB 91-74. All right, let's move on to Saturday, where this was the big one of the week. Number 3, UConn held off number 7 BYU 86-84. Alex Caravan, Terrace Reed, Silas Demery were all awesome. 21 points apiece, so 63 combined for those three. Weird stuff going on with BYU. Kennard Davis, who is supposed to be one of their starters, didn't play as under suspicion of DUI. We don't know the whole story yet, but so not going to speculate on that. And then Keba Keita took a massive hit to Silas Demery and was woozy coming up. They lost him for the game. Hopefully he's all right. When he left the game, it was 26-12. I don't know if that motivated them or what. AJ Dabansa was not good in the first half. And then in the second half, it was like that, oh my God moment. He is a talent, an absolute talent. Ends up with 25 points, most of those coming in the second half, where he single-handedly brought this BYU team back. UConn led by as much as 16, I believe, and BYU just fought back on the hands of AJ Dabansa. Rob Wright had a huge turnover at the end of the game. Richie Saunders was, okay in this matchup, but losing, Keba Keita and Kennard Davis for the game with only 2 of your starters out, only 3 of them playing. For AJ Dabansa to kind of carry him, it's like, yeah, the ceiling is very, very high for this BYU team if you get this from AJ Dabansa every night. But UConn, still the story. They were really good. It was a game of runs. To start off the game, BYU started just switching everything, and it really threw UConn off. But as a great coach, as Dan Hurley would do, he adjusted. They ended up getting a ton of touches down low to a Terrace Reed, who had a really big first half. And then, UConn just controlled the entire way until it was AJ Dabansa time, who just took off. But UConn ends up holding them off, feeling very good about both of these teams. It was a very good basketball game to watch, but UConn gets the job done. Other games that went on Saturday, just briefly, a couple that kind of flew under the radar. Clemson did lose to Georgetown 79-74. KJ Lewis was awesome for Georgetown. George Twan, as you'll see on this. That's a typo on the bottom, as you, for those watching, can see. It's supposed to be Georgetown. KJ Lewis, 26 points in that one. Maryland in the Buzz Bowl went to Marquette and beat them 89-82. David Coit and Isaiah Watts, 37 points combined, 7 of 11 from 3. Farrell Payne had a gruesome injury for those who saw the video. Probably Maryland's best player. It was ugly. Hopefully he's okay. I haven't seen the full, report on what the timetable is going to be for Farrell Payne, but it was kind of a sad scene there, as I think he's their best player and most important player. He was really having a big year, but David Coit, Isaiah Watts really stepped up. And for Marquette, Chase Ross had 31 points. The concern is their defense. Their defense is awful. Shaka Smart refuses to go to the transfer portal. Some people thought it would work. Some people didn't. As of right now, if they were to set out lines, Marquette would be a heavy underdog to make the tournament as of right now. I know it's only 4 games in, but they got drilled by Indiana, gave up 100 points to Indiana, now gave up 89 on their home court to Maryland. Not good stuff for Shaka Smart and Marquette. Oklahoma lost, just choked a game away at the Pentagon to Nebraska, 105-99. Price Samford was really good for Nebraska in that one. Kind of a bubblish matchup it feels in that one, but Nebraska, pretty good. The longest winning streak in the nation, as I'm sure most of you have heard. If you listen to any other college basketball podcast, they've talked about it, but Nebraska pulls off a win there. Butler and SMU, kind of another sort of maybe bubbly matchup. SMU gets the job done 87-85. Louisville destroyed Ohio, no surprise. Kansas plays without Darren Peterson, beats Princeton. New Mexico, Eric Olin loses to New Mexico State in a rivalry game 76-68. Nevada gets drilled by Santa Clara, as we kind of expected. Santa Clara, a pretty good team in the WCC. Watch out for Santa Clara this year. St. Louis beats up on Grand Canyon. And then nothing else really notable other than maybe Minnesota going to overtime with a Doug Gottlieb coach team. That's ugly. I don't know what's going on there. Nico Medved, a great coach. Doug Gottlieb, probably the worst coach in all of college basketball, in Division I college basketball, if I do say so myself. But hey, maybe they're getting better. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But yeah, Minnesota, you shouldn't go to overtime. However, they did escape. Kind of a crazy end of the game there, but we're not going to speculate too much on Minnesota and Green Bay. Next up on Sunday, the big one was Houston, number 1 team in the country for this time. We'll talk about how they got surpassed here in a little bit. Holds off number 22 Auburn. Whether you think that last play was a foul or not, I personally don't. You can't make a call in that scenario. I thought they made the call right, but Auburn gets the job done 73-72. Houston gets the job done. The freshmen for Houston were spectacular. Chris Senack Jr., 18 points, 9 rebounds, and Kingston Flemings with a big just pop-off game, 22 points, 7 assists. Kingston Flemings, you guys know, for those who listen to the podcast, how high I am on LeBaron Philon. Kingston Flemings plays just like LeBaron Philon. They're very similar, very fast, kind of even similar looking shots. Kingston Flemings was great in this one. The freshmen were Chris Senack fouled out, JoJo Tugler fouled out. It was a long end of the game, a lot of, just challenges and reviews and just a whole bunch of it was a fun game to watch. It was a fun game to watch all the way through, but Houston gets the job done. Houston's going to be just fine. The only thing I will say about Auburn, better than I expected. Keyshawn Hall was great, 20 points, 11 rebounds, ended up getting hurt. Who knows what the game would have been like had he not gotten hurt. Tahad Pettiford hasn't been great this year. He started off the game good and then just wasn't good the rest of the game, quite frankly. I believe he ended up 5 for 14 from the field. Wasn't bad, but also not awesome. My worry for Auburn is this is a great showing. You showed you can compete with the number 1 team in the country. Great stuff. My concern is, can they play any better? This looked like a team that was playing at their peak potential in this matchup. And it was everything kind of led their way and they still didn't win the game. Now I know that's splitting hairs. I think if you're an Auburn fan, you should be optimistic. Maybe I didn't even have them on my top 40 after last week. I did move them into my top 40 after this ranking. I just came in a little low. It's a whole new roster, whole new coach, obviously. But I think you got to be optimistic if you're an Auburn fan. So we'll see how far Stephen Pearl can take them. Miami and number 10 Florida in the state of Florida game. Florida really had no troubles, 82 to 68 in that one. And the big three, the big men for Florida were awesome. Chinyalu, Hauk, and Condon combined for 52 points in this one and 27 rebounds between the three. Yeah, that's awesome. Klarsjar coming off the bench, 15 points, 4 of 7 for 3. It looks like he's going to have to be there maybe before you know it, they're starting 2 guard. Xavier Lee looks awful. Xavier Lee has just quite frankly been bad. He hasn't transferred up the way that Florida fans thought he was going to. Boogie Flan's going to be fine. I think Klarsjar might be in that starting lineup before you notice it. We talked on the last podcast, I believe, I can't remember the exact numbers, what Xavier Lee was shooting, but it was rough and they went down after this game. I think I don't have the box score pulled up, but it was another horrible shooting performance for Xavier Lee against a high major opponent. He's just not translating as well as most thought. Notre Dame and Ohio State in a really tight affair. Ohio State ends up with the win 64-63 thanks to a Christoph Tilley at the end of the game, a little left-handed layup that gave Ohio State an escape here. They came in as 9.5-point favorites. Notre Dame just, quite frankly, has a little bit better of a coach. And I think most people's opinions, Notre Dame should be, fighting for an NCAA tournament berth. Ohio State should be in the NCAA tournament. We'll see what Jake Diebler can do. Indiana kind of held off Incarnate Word late in the game. They got off to a big lead, and then Incarnate Word fought back. Not really worried about it. Kind of a trap game here. Indiana wins. Cincinnati holds off Mount St. Mary's, which was also close in the second half. Purdue beats Akron. Akron's a really good mid-major team, and they can really score the ball. But Purdue, 97-79. And then a couple that we're going to say we're real concerned about. On the teams that stink, that's going to come up, Memphis. You may be seeing your name on that list. They lose a home game to their old coach, Josh Pashner, who went to UNLV. First big win for Pastner at UNLV to go there and just control the entire game. We're going to talk about Memphis a little bit more in depth here because this could really be a disaster. It already is a disaster for Loyola Chicago. Loses at home to Colorado State. I have no idea what's going on there. 80-67. Wake Forest drills UMass Lowell. Kent State beats Wright State. Yeah, whatever. That is the key results for this weekend of hoops. Alrighty, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to get into all the rankings, AP poll, KenPom, my personal rankings, and then teams that stink, as we've been talking about. We'll be right back. Now, I have a severe addiction to finding the best deals on Amazon, specifically college gear. It is my go-to for the holiday season, whether it is hoodies, long sleeves, or even t-shirts. I decided to put all these great deals that I personally find on my Amazon storefront. For the bracket science fans that don't want to spend a lot on college gear, this is the place for you. Take a look at our brand new storefront. The link is in the description. Even hit the follow button on there so you don't miss a great deal on the best college apparel. Alrighty, we are back here. Let's talk about the AP poll where Purdue, after their big win at Alabama, jumps to number 1, as I believe they should. Houston drops number 2, no surprise. UConn at number 3 still. No surprise, those 3 teams have been, the top 3 teams in the AP poll for pretty much the entire season, and maybe even the entire season. I can't remember where UConn was preseason. They might have been 3rd. But Arizona jumps Duke, goes to 4 after their win against UCLA, as I kind of expected. Duke at 5, we should mention, who's looked great. We'll see what they can do this upcoming week, which we'll talk about here. The big matchup in the Champions Classic. At 6, Louisville, all the way up to 6. What great stuff for Louisville fans. You were under the Kenny Payne era, and now you're up to 6 in the country under Pat Kelsey. Good for Louisville fans. Kind of same for Michigan, who's still at number 7, even though they've looked shaky in the AP poll. They do just drop 1 spot as Louisville jumps them. But with Juwan Howard, that was kind of just a disaster. And now Dusty May, he's got things rolling, even though if they've looked a little shaky. Illinois up to number 8. Whew, watch out for Illinois. BYU just drops a couple spots to number 9. No big deal there. Florida's at number 10. Alabama drops to 11. Kentucky drops to 12. Gonzaga up to 13. Watch out for Gonzaga. Talk about them a little more in my rankings here in a bit. St. John's down to 14. Texas Tech drops all the way to 15, which I don't like. I think Texas Tech is one of the best teams in the country still. Iowa State stays at 16. Michigan State stays at 17. North Carolina stays at 18. Then UCLA drops to 19. Talk about them, like I said, and maybe you'll see them in the team that stinks, even though they don't stink. They're just plummeting a little bit right now. Number 20 is Tennessee. 21, Arkansas, no change there. Auburn stays ranked at 22nd, which I'm glad the AP poll did this because they look good against Houston. Wisconsin up to 23, up 1 spot. Kansas up 1 spot to 24. Creighton drops out, which brings in NC State in the Will Wade era all the way up to 25. How about that? Fan bases that have been frustrated for a while. I know NC State made a Final Four, but, cool to see. Cool to see these big brands back at the top of the sport. All right, let's talk about the KenPom rankings, as are probably a little bit more reliable than the AP poll. So Duke is number 1 in the country at KenPom right now, slightly over Gonzaga. How about Gonzaga? They are kind of flying under the radar right now. 9th in offense and 4th in defense for Gonzaga. For those who don't know, KenPom is the worldwide metric basically for college basketball, or the nationwide metric for college basketball. This is what influences the betting lines. It comes out. It's our best computer algorithm that we have in the college basketball world. It does obviously offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. It also has preseason bias involved, which will slowly get away once we have bigger resumes for these teams. The preseason bias includes where they were last year, the players they brought in, and just overall historical rank. So yeah, it's the best algorithm that we have. Houston is at number 3, the number 1 defense in the country. Houston, number 1 defense in the country. Guess who number 2 defense in the country is? I'll let you think about it here for a second. It's probably not going to be who you think, because it's not on this list. So think about it for a second. Number 2 defense in the country, Cincinnati. How about that? The Bearcats under Wes Miller. Really good defensively. However, they're in the hundreds in offense. So just Wes Miller-like teams. 4 at KenPom is Kentucky. 5 Purdue, which is surprising to me. Number 1 offense in the country. However, 50th in defense. They're going to have to get that defense a little bit improved there. Illinois at 6. UConn at 7. Florida's at 8. Iowa State at 9, as they should be. They're really good and kind of flying under the radar right now. 3rd in defensive efficiency. Louisville at 10, second in offensive efficiency. Good stuff there. Arizona at 11. How about Vanderbilt? Not enough people are talking about Vanderbilt. One of the best offenses in the country, fourth in offense right now at KenPom. This team's awesome. Mark Byington's awesome. This team's really good. Don't let Vanderbilt fly under the radar. You can get them at like, I believe 150 to 1 to win the national championship right now for the 12th ranked KenPom team. Not too bad there. Tennessee at 13, Michigan's down to 14, BYU's down at 15, Texas Tech 16, Wisconsin 17, St. John's at 18. Then how about USC under Eric Musselman at 19? Could be a really fun team. We don't know much about them yet, but we'll see. Same goes with NC State, who I've been very high on. Think they're going to be good. They have a pretty solid matchup coming up here, which we'll talk about in the games to know. Then Alabama at 21, Indiana up at 22, North Carolina 23, St. Mary's. God, what a job Randy Bennett's done up at 24. Baylor is ahead of Kansas right now at KenPom at 25, Kansas at 26. Clemson, after their loss, dropped down a little bit to 27th. Ole Miss at 28, Missouri 29, San Diego State 30. Auburn, I believe, actually climbed up after their loss, which they should. They played well. 31st, UCLA all the way down at 32nd. Keep this in mind. Michigan State's at 33rd. Georgia, 34. We mentioned their offensive efficiency. However, I don't think the 34th best team in the country should be in a game with Georgia Tech at home. Arkansas is all the way down at 35. All right. So think about those two rankings. Now I'm going to combine it with my rankings for if you're just, fast forwarding to the rankings. My rankings are based off of a little bit of KenPom, a little bit of resume stuff, and it is also just personal power rankings combined with an AP poll like style. So this is where I land at. Mostly it's just opinion based, but I do include a little bit of KenPom research and big wins and such. Purdue at 1. I have UConn at 2 over Houston. I've been in on UConn for the entire season. Arizona at 4, Duke at 5. I have Illinois all the way up at 6. Illinois looks like a national championship contender to me. Gonzaga, I got up at 7, and Louisville, I have at 8, which is a little lower than the AP poll, but I'm still in. I believe this top 8 should be in this order. I know Gonzaga isn't there in the AP poll. Who is up there? Maybe is it Kentucky? Let me pull up the graphic there because I know Gonzaga is a little bit lower. Who's in that top 8? Oh, it's Michigan. No big deal there. But I got Michigan down at 14, as you'll see. I think those top 8 have kind of separated themselves just because they've won the big game so far this season. I'm not saying they're better than, I'm not saying, Gonzaga is so much better than Texas Tech or say, but as of now, in terms of an AP style, I think these are your top 8 teams with a little bit of metrics with Gonzaga being up there. Kentucky at number 9. I got Texas Tech still in the top 10 at number 10. For those who know, I have been a little bit more in on Texas Tech than BYU, just slightly in terms of the Big 12. I have Texas Tech at 10 and BYU at 11. Alabama at 12. Florida at 13, just concerned about that 2 guard. Xavier Lee has not been good. They need Clark to probably step up. I got Michigan at 14. As we mentioned, they've just looked a little bit shaky to start the season. Tennessee at 15, I'm a little bit higher on. Tennessee and Iowa State, I really like both these teams. Got St. John's down at 17. I'm not 100% sure about St. John's right now. Their team just doesn't fit too beautifully, as a lot of people thought coming into the season. We'll see when they face some higher level competition. North Carolina right behind them, then Michigan State. I dropped UCLA all the way down to 20. So we're going to talk about them here in a little bit. I've been promising it. Arkansas at 21. I got NC State at 22. I know they haven't really played anyone. I just like this roster. I like the coach. I think they're going to be good. Georgetown at 23. This is a little bit more of a resume-based thing. So right now, I know we're 3 or 4 games in for most teams. Tournament ends today. There's COVID happens again, and they're like, we're just doing all of the results that already happened this season. Georgetown's probably like a 3 seed. So like 24th, they're not getting any love in the AP poll. I have them at 24 or 23rd, excuse me. So Georgetown, you never know. They'd probably be like a 3 or 4 seed right now with 2 big wins, 2 quad 1 wins. Yeah, looks good. Vanderbilt at 24, like I mentioned, they're awesome. Georgetown, NC State, Georgetown, Vanderbilt, that 22 through 24 teams I'm kind of buying in on. Same goes for Wisconsin. Unfortunately, I did drop Wisconsin just a couple spots. They haven't done anything wrong. They just haven't played anyone. Now they do play someone this upcoming week, so they have a chance to make some noise, but they just haven't played anyone. So just at the fortune of Vanderbilt winning at UCF and Georgetown beating some good teams, and Wisconsin and NC State have just kind of been in the same boat. NC State did beat UAB badly, but Wisconsin has played like nobody yet. So just, I still like this Wisconsin team. We just don't really know much about them. Indiana, still in the same spot. They look good. Struggle with Incarnate Word late in the game, but they're going to be just fine. San Diego State, Missouri, Kansas, Ole Miss. These have been like my final four in this ranking for forever. Now I am doing a next 15, which I'll just label them out quickly. Baylor could be on this list very easily. Iowa, same goes for them. Virginia. I moved Auburn all the way up. I didn't have Auburn in my top 40. Now I have them at 34. So don't hate me too much, Auburn fans, but I've just been a little lower on them this year. Took them to win the national championship last year, so they can't be too mad at me. USC right behind them, a bit of an unknown as well. St. Mary's, Utah State, Ohio State. I actually dropped Ohio State, I think, 2 or 3 spots. After the game against Notre Dame, it was a standalone game. You get to watch them. You get to see they're not that well of a coach team. They got a lot of talent, but not a very well coached team. What is Ohio State's identity? I don't know. 3-point shooting, it hasn't been great. We'll see. Cincinnati right behind them. Creighton, I had to drop a little bit after getting blown out by Gonzaga, but still should be a solid team. Nebraska, they're the rival right behind them. Villanova, Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Oklahoma State all behind them. There's a couple other teams I wanted to get on here. Wake Forest, I wanted to get on here, just didn't have anywhere for them to really go. There's another team that I was thinking about that I'm like, yeah, I want to get them on there so bad, but just couldn't do it. So here's my rankings, just a little bit of a combination of the both of a little bit of everything. All right, now for the promise, teams that stink. I didn't label it teams that stink. I labeled it teams that are plummeting right now. So these are notable schools that have a difference of at least the minimum I went was they've dropped 20 spots from their preseason ranking to where they're currently ranked. And this is based on the KenPom rankings. So for those who are involved in the college basketball world, a big thing for coaches is they want to beat their preseason KenPom ranking. As we mentioned, the preseason ranking is based on, it's got some personnel, where what they did last year, their overall just brand significance, basically, the history of the program. That's a better way to phrase it. So some of these teams were ranked fairly highly and just have plummeted. So let's talk about some of them. These are in no particular order whatsoever. Texas A&M started preseason 35th. They're down to 69. So they have dropped 34 spots to start the season in year one under Bucky. I think the preseason ranking was probably just fairly high because of the collection of talent, and they do have individually good players. The team just doesn't fit. I don't know why people were kind of thinking it might fit in the preseason. I saw it immediately, and I'm like, this is a team of players who don't win, quite frankly. They're good individual players, but they don't win. It's showing right now. UCLA is promised. They were preseason top 10 at KenPom. They were 10th. They've plummeted quickly all the way down to 32 without really doing anything too bad to do it. They're not beating bad teams badly. They're not destroying bad teams. They looked competent against Arizona. It's kind of an ugly style of basketball right now. Donovan Dent just hasn't quite popped yet. I think UCLA is going to be fine. I don't think they're the 32nd best team in the country. As I mentioned, I have them at 20. I think they're 19th in the AP poll. I think that's more fair. Probably 17 to 22-ish range. But yeah, the team hasn't looked good. We're going to see what they can do. 22 spots down as of right now. No surprise on this one. Xavier is bad. I believe in KenPom's history now. Someone might want to fact check me on this. I don't think Xavier's ever finished outside of like the top 80. I think I heard that somewhere. I know it's something like that, some sort of stat. Like they're a truly historically great program. However, they're down 48 spots from 62 to 110. I heard a podcast where Rick Pitino actually said Richard is struggling with NIL money at Xavier. So I think Richard Pitino is a good coach. He did a great job at New Mexico the past couple of years. They'll be fine in the future, just not very good right now. DePaul went from 78 to 112. Now, you might say 78 might have been a little too optimistic, but however, they did have a lot of retention, and Chris Holtman is a good coach, in my opinion, at least for the DePaul level. They are down, what's the math here? Oh, boy. 34. There we go. 34 spots at KenPom. Providence from 48th to 75. Whew. If you're a listener to the podcast, you know I'm not a fan of Kim English as the Providence head coach. He hasn't done anything, quite frankly. I know he had problems with Bryce Hopkins' health, and he turned Devin Carter into a really good basketball player. They haven't won. They had a decent year in year one, and then was it last year? They were just awful. I think 12-20, 12-21 or something. Maybe that was 2 years ago. Just hasn't been good. They're already down 27 spots. It's not working. It's not working. Same goes for Memphis and Penny Hardaway. They were 52nd in the preseason, down to 76. I've been saying for a while, I think it's USF as the team to beat in the American. We're going to talk about another team that's starting to, gain some hype in our preview of games for this upcoming week. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And we promised we were going to talk a lot about Memphis. So let's do it here. Let me, as I've got so many tabs pulled up. What are we at here? 76 in KenPom. I just want to talk about their upcoming schedule. So they opened with a win against San Francisco, 76-70. You lose to Ole Miss at Ole Miss. No big deal. You lose by 6. Lose at home to UNLV. Yeah, no good there. Let's talk about the schedule they got coming up. So we're going to talk about the MTE that they're playing here in a little bit against Purdue, opening night against Purdue. Probably not going to win that one, let's be honest. However, penny teams always do seem to play up a little bit. Then you get Southern Illinois and New Orleans. You should win. However, New Orleans is the biggest climber in all of KenPom rankings. How about that? New Orleans having a great season as they went to TCU and beat them. That will definitely help. So not a guaranteed win there. And then after that, you get Baylor at home. They're projected to lose that game by 4 via KenPom. Then you go to Louisville, where they're an underdog by 15 points. Probably not going to win that one. You're at home against Vanderbilt in 2 games, sort of a rivalry-ish game, both in the state of Tennessee. Vanderbilt favored by 6 in that game. Then you go to Mississippi State and Josh Hubbard, who is favored by 8 against you, and then you play Alabama State to close it out, which you should win there. So you're projected to win 3 games, 3 more games in this rest of the non-conference. That is not good. That is not good. You could be 5-11 or 4-11, excuse me. Is that the math? Did I do that right? 4 and something like that. I don't know. But you're expected to win 4 games going into American Conference play. That's not good. They have a gauntlet coming up. They schedule a gauntlet, and I respect Penny Hardaway for doing it. However, they don't have the team to do it this year. And quite frankly, it hasn't gone well for the coaching as well. New coaches. Alex Jensen, first year at Utah. They were preseason number 74. The roster looked really bad in the preseason. However, I'm a little bit more in on Alex Jensen than most. However, it has not gone good. 28 spots down to 102nd. They're outside the top 100 at KenPom, a Big 12 team. Not good. Arkansas Little Rock, who is the favorite in the OVC coming in. We're going to start talking about, we have 5 more mid-majors. We'll talk about Loyola Chicago because they're not leaving here without any hate. Arkansas Little Rock from 152nd to 214th. Yikes. That's a big drop. Now you will see these mid-majors obviously fall a little bit more just playing by games and getting beat badly or losing to teams that, they have to schedule where, the Purdue's don't have to schedule, but they're down a bunch. They were my pick to win the OVC. James Madison, my pick to win the Sun Belt, has been awful. I don't know how this team is awful, but they're awful. They're from 136 to 196. This was a team I thought was going to be like a 12 seed this March Madness and actually make some noise. They have high major talent, and Preston Spradlin's a great coach, and they're just bad. They're 196 in the country. James Madison should never be there. They have a lot of resources, and I don't know what's going on there. Chattanooga has played a really tough schedule to start the season. However, they're down from 118 all the way to 195. They turned over the roster. However, they got a lot of talent as well. Obviously, 118th in the preseason is pretty good for a Chattanooga team. The SoCon is struggling. So let's jump Loyola Chicago. We'll end with them as we're going to give them some hate. Stay in the SoCon to Furman, 133rd to 194th. Who's going to win the SoCon? I have no idea. I'm still kind of biased just to say Chattanooga because I think they're talented and their talent will kind of overtake the other teams in the SoCon, but we'll see. Then Loyola Chicago, my God, 99th to 172nd. We talked about on the last podcast. Loyola Chicago was supposed to be one of the few teams that can win the A10 this year. They were my pick to win the A10 this year. I like the retention. I thought Drew Valentine is kind of on the peak of maybe moving up to the power conference level. It's been awful. This team's awful. This team was a home underdog to Colorado State the other day by 6 points, a home underdog as the preseason top 100 team. It has been awful for Loyola Chicago this year. So these are teams that are plummeting right now. Obviously, let's give UCLA a little bit of credit. They're going to be just fine. But the rest of them, I'm not so sure about any of them. Alrighty, let's talk about the games to watch for this upcoming week of college hoops. Number 25 now, NC State and Will Wade coaches against VCU, where he coached at for a couple years ago. Will Wade and NC State favored by 12.5. This is on Monday, 7 o'clock on the ACC network. Should be a fun one there. At 8 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Kansas State hosts Tulsa. Kansas State favored by 12.5 in this game. This is the game I wanted to mention because we talked about the American, how Memphis is struggling. USF lost a game to George Washington that I thought they won, according to CBS Sports Graphic. They won, and then someone commented on the channel and was like, George Washington beat UCF. Went and looked on CBS Sports app. USF won, and then went and looked everywhere else, and George Washington won. So blame the CBS Sports app. Appreciate the commenter telling me that there. But so USF with an early loss. Tulsa has looked good. They were picked 7th in the preseason American poll. They look good. So keep an eye on this game, Tulsa versus Kansas State. We'll kind of get a feel of, and it's also PJ Haggerty playing against his old team. He went from Tulsa to Memphis to Kansas State. So something there as well. At 9 o'clock on ESPN Plus, LMU takes on UC Santa Barbara. 2 undefeated teams, so sort of notable. Santa Barbara's favored by 3.5 in that one. And then a rivalry game at 10 o'clock. Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon hosts them on FS1. Oregon favored by 13.5. Feels like a lot of points. They did get Jackson Shellstad back sooner than expected. I would expect him to play in this game. I'm not sure if they would hold him out for this game. But yeah, I like Oregon State to kind of cover 13.5 in that one personally. But we'll see if we end up pulling the trigger on that one. All right, Tuesday, here's where it starts to get loaded. We have the Champions Classic on Tuesday, and this is pretty much about it. Starting at 6:30, these games will be on ESPN. Kentucky and Michigan State is the opening matchup, where Kentucky's favored by 6 in this game against Michigan State. We'll see. I don't really have any thoughts about this one because they're 2 completely different teams. We'll see how physical Michigan State can be with them. I'm not sure. No idea what to think about that. That 6 spread seems about right. The nightcap will be at 9 o'clock, which is Duke and Kansas. It should have been Boozer versus Peterson, but the news out of Kansas is Darren Peterson is out for the immediate future, as quoted by Bill Self. Not sure what that means. I know he wants to play in this game. It would be awesome to see, Darren Peterson versus, Cam Boozer. To maybe the top 2 picks in the NBA draft. However, AJ Debance looked awesome, my goodness, against UConn. So we'll see if Darren Peterson doesn't play. It could be ugly for Kansas against this Duke team. So keep an eye on that. Duke's favored by 6 right now at KenPom. So just waiting on that Darren Peterson news. I would expect him to not play. It seems when he was having those cramp issues, it seems it was actually a hamstring strain. You don't want to play with the hamstring. So we'll see what. Hopefully he's fine because he's such a fun watch. This would be such a fun watch game. We'll see. Hopefully we're not robbed of it. All right, on Wednesday, don't worry about the numbers. This is taken from ESPN as they take forever to update the AP poll. I decided to not even wait on it. So it'll be number 4 now, Arizona, traveling to Stores to take on number 3, UConn. So this is a true home game for UConn. They're favored by 5 in this one via KenPom. This game's at 7 o'clock on FS1. If Arizona wins this game, even UConn, I don't know. If Arizona goes and wins this game and you have a win over UConn, Florida, the 2 defending national champion teams, and UCLA, do you just put them at number 1? Can this team, if you win a true road game here and 2 neutral site games, I know they had the crowd advantage against Florida. However, they did not have the crowd advantage against UCLA. So is it how can you not put them number 1? But even if UConn wins, they would have beaten a top 10 team in BYU and, a top 10 team and top 5 team in Arizona. But obviously those were both. This is a true home game for UConn. In the BYU game, they did have most of the fan base there. So it's a really fun matchup regardless. UConn -5 in that one. We'll see what the line comes out. If it gets down to 3.5 or so, which it might, I'll probably take UConn in this one. I'm in on UConn. I think they have the coaching to stop Koa Pete and to just kind of frustrate that Arizona team. The front court matchup is going to be awesome. Krivas Owaka versus Terrace Reed. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see if Arizona's size can kind of outweigh UConn, but it's going to be a terrific matchup. At 7:30 on True TV, Dayton and Marquette, 2 teams I'm fading for the rest of the season. Marquette's favored by 5 in that one. Staying away from it. I don't like either of these teams, quite frankly, this season. I don't think they're too spectacular. Speaking of the American and South Florida, they get a test at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's favored by 7 in this matchup. Can't wait to see it. because hopefully Anthony Roy's been for Oklahoma State, probably their best scorer, been battling a little bit of an injury, but Oklahoma State's been great. They look great in the preseason. They've looked great to start the season. I've got them 45th in my rankings. So we'll see. South Florida still would probably be my pick to win the American right now. But yeah, should be a fun matchup there. And then not number 8 Alabama, now number 11 Alabama, and now number 8 Illinois, with a good matchup here. Game played at Illinois. Illinois favored by 6 in this one. Should be an absolute just shootout. So what a doubleheader on FS1. This one's at 9 o'clock on FS1, following Arizona and UConn. This game could be first to 100, maybe the two of the 5 best offenses in the country. This game is going to be absolutely just run and gun all day. Can't wait to watch it. Hopefully Tomislava Visic is back for Illinois, so we get the full thrill of this game. But yeah, going to be a really, really fun matchup in that one. Moving on to Thursday, where we have the Baha Mar starting this Thursday. Should be a lot of fun. Purdue and Memphis, as we talked about. Purdue should win the game. However, Memphis always seems to play up. And then Texas Tech, Wake Forest. Wake Forest has made a little bit of noise early in the season. They're better than expected, but I still think Texas Tech is awesome. Selfishly, I kind of hope it's Purdue, Texas Tech, just so we get that on the championship day on Friday. I think that would be fun, but we'll see. Anything can happen. 4 good teams, so those are on Thursday at 6 and 8:30, and then the championship game will be at 9:30 on Friday. The rest of the slate on Thursday looks like this. Well, I guess we should mention the lines. Purdue's favored by 12 over Memphis, and Texas Tech is favored by 7 over Wake Forest. Other games, 7 o'clock on Peacock, Nebraska, favored by 7 against New Mexico. That is not at New Mexico. It is a neutral site game. Yeah, I believe that's a neutral site game. I can double check and see where that game is going to take place. It is going to take place in Kansas City, so leans a little bit towards Nebraska in that one. And then at 7 o'clock on ESPN2, I put it on here because it's a power conference game, but I do not want to watch this game. Pitt versus UCF, 2 bad basketball teams, in my opinion. We'll see if Pitt just had a bad game, but when I watched them against West Virginia, I had to almost water my eyes afterwards because it was so tough to watch. That's 7 o'clock on ESPN2. This game is being played in Daytona Beach, so it leans towards Florida. However, it's not a home game, but UCF favored by 4. It's going to be a game that I will probably watch for 5 minutes when it's halftime of the Purdue-Memphis game, quite frankly. 7 o'clock on TNT. Not sure what's going on with TNT and St. John's. Obviously, they have some sort of deal, but they're hosting Bucknell. They're favored by 25 in that one. We talked about Texas Tech and Wake Forest. Kansas State, we'll see what they do against Tulsa. A little bit of a trap game since they are going to play Mississippi State at 9:30 on Peacock. This is being played in Kansas City. This is also part of an MTE, I believe. I can't remember what the MTE, maybe it's the Rady Children's Invitational. It's not a fantastic MTE, but no, they're not playing in that. I don't know what's going on in Kansas City. It might just be some sort of matchup. I probably should have did a little more research in that one. Maybe just a doubleheader: Nebraska, New Mexico, Kansas State, Mississippi State. And then at 10 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, USC hosts Troy. Troy should be all right. USC hasn't really been tested yet. We'll see what they can be. And then on Friday games to watch. This is the MTE, I believe, the Rady Children's Invitational. Utah State takes on Tulane, 1 o'clock on ESPN2. Love to see some early action on Friday. Favored by 11 in that one. At 2 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, Butler and South Carolina. I believe this is no, it is not. This game will be played in West Virginia. Butler is favored by 4 in that one. We'll see. I would lean Butler to win the game. I don't think South Carolina is very good. I don't think Butler's awesome, but Butler showed some signs against SMU. The big one at 4 o'clock on Peacock, number 9 BYU and number 23 Wisconsin. This game will be taking place in Salt Lake City, Utah. BYU favored by only 2 in this game. BYU's 15th at KenPom, Wisconsin 17th, so a little bit closer in the line there. I'm just more curious. I know BYU's good. I'm curious about Wisconsin. I would probably lean BYU -2 in that one. Line might move a little bit up, but we're going to see. Wisconsin could be really good. 5 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, Virginia and Northwestern. This could be also a really fun one. This game will be played in West Virginia. It's the Greenbrier. That's what's going on. The Greenbrier. There it is. Should be a fun matchup here. A really well-coached matchup. Chris Collins and Ryan Odom Virginia only favored by 1. Northwestern is thought of pretty highly in a lot of computer metrics. So we'll see if they have a team that's worthy of being on the bubble. We'll see. I would lean Virginia in that one. 5:30 on ESPN Plus. Two teams I expect to be in March Madness, Iona and Akron, both leaders of their respective conferences. Akron favored by 10 in that one. At 6:30 on ESPN2, number 6 Louisville taking on Cincinnati. Again, will be in Cincinnati, not at Cincinnati though. Just, a couple hours, maybe an hour up the road from Louisville. Louisville favored by 5 in that matchup. We'll see if Cincinnati can provide any sort of offense because Louisville is going to force them to do that with their shot-making ability. At 6:30 on ESPN, West Virginia, who just beat up on Pitt. Maybe it's credit to West Virginia and it's not Pitt. Maybe West Virginia is better than we think. It can make games ugly. They play Clemson. Clemson's favored by 4 in this matchup. This game will be played in Charleston, South Carolina. And then finally, 9 o'clock ESPN2, Georgia taking on Xavier. Georgia favored by 10 in this game. This game will also be played in Charleston, South Carolina. So you can see we're starting to build into some of these MTEs. We're going to have a huge MTE talk on next week's show, which leads me into our next thing because we are going to talk about Sunday's games because Saturday there is nothing. Normally, for those who know, I don't even do Friday games. I do Friday, Saturday, Sunday on Friday's show. However, it's going to be like there's nothing going on Saturday. So I'm not going to record a podcast then. I'm going to talk about the Sunday games because there's a couple of them that are okay. And then we're going to record Sunday night to talk Monday because Monday, the Players Era Festival starts, which is going to be awesome, which is why none of these games are, no big games on Saturday. All these teams are traveling to the Players Era Festival. Some are going to Maui. Some are going to the Battle for Atlantis. So we're going to preview all the huge MTEs that are coming up outside of the Baha Mar and, a couple we talked about, Charleston Classic, Rady Children's. So we're going to, we're going to record Sunday night. So we are going to talk about Sunday's games here. Briefly, real quick, Virginia and Butler. This graphic is courtesy of the CBS Sports app. This game is on CBS Sports Network, where Virginia is favored by 3 in this one. This game will be played in the Greenbrier, I believe. So, that should be fun. And then South Carolina and Northwestern right after that. Also in the Greenbrier, where Northwestern favored by 6. We mentioned the computers like Northwestern. And then 2 mid-major games to kind of keep an eye on, both on Flow Sports. George Washington and McNeese. George Washington favored by 4, 2 teams you could see in the NCAA tournament. And Middle Tennessee State is better this year, as is Murray State. Both decent teams. Murray State favored by 3 in that one to round out the week. And then, as mentioned, we will be back recapping all of these games, mostly those, big, top 15 matchups, top 10 matchups in some cases. We'll talk about all those on Sunday night show leading into Monday. It'll probably post early in the morning on Monday, where we can talk about, all the Players Era Festival and such, because it's going to be the best feast week we've ever had because of the Players Era Festival. I know some people are so against the Players Era Festival. Oh, it's got some elite matchups though. So I'm in on it. I don't know how it's financially feasible for them or what, but it seems as if it's here to stay, and it's a lot of good games. So we'll preview all that. It's going to be top 15, top 25, top 10 matchups all across the board. Oh, it's going to be exciting. So stick around for that. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, turn on the post notifications, comment games you want to know, because we're probably going to do a lot of betting preview on that Players Era Festival one because it's in Vegas. Got to talk some betting in that one. And then follow us on Instagram and TikTok, as mentioned, Bracket Science with 2 S's, where you'll see we're probably going to post about 5 times today on Monday with a bunch of rankings, our rankings. We're going to post that team that stinks, those teams that are plummeting, I guess, graphic, just so UCLA fans don't get too mad at me. However, it's been a struggle to start the season. So hit the like button if you liked what's going on, subscribe to the channel, post notifications, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you again Sunday night into Monday morning. Till then, take care.